Hello, and welcome to episode 76 of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. Tonight we'll discuss the good and bad that happened over the past week. Pretty much a nice, good old mixed bag. I'm
Yeah, it was a
Havokpus,
lot
and
of
I'm joined
something.
by...
Oh, sorry, what?
Yes. Oh, I was
There were.
introducing us.
Oh, sorry. I'm Frozencreek. I'm
I'm
introducing
Havokpus.
myself. I don't need you. Yeah, we had a week, and unfortunately, we don't have another week to fucking fix anything. But
Just get a lot of
I guess
band-aids,
it's
and
just
it'll
gonna
be okay.
happen this week. So I mean, it's that time of year. It's playoffs time, so I am excited for that at least.
Yeah. But before we get to that, we have other stuff to talk about. So, first, I want to give sort of a quick shout out to the NA PUBG crew for continuing to do super well in their recent slew of online leagues and whatnot. They've been getting a lot of, you know, top 8, top 10 finishes recently. I think they've gotten a few chicken dinners last week in a few of the leagues, so they've been playing really well recently, which is actually sort of the I guess, inverse of the Korean roster, where they have continued to play well. I'm not sure if I gave an update, but from the last week, from the weird War Masters event, the team was able to like finish third, and then in like this, they played in like the regular event, and they didn't do well enough, but they got to the wildcard event, placed third in that, so it's like, okay, maybe they can still turn around. And then and then they got to like the main event, and then I think they did like really poorly. So just, they're not doing good.
Yeah, I haven't been able to watch anything, but it seems like kind of a mess almost. But I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess I need you to tell me more about the PUBG stuff.
I mean, I haven't been able to watch the Korean team either, just because like the matches come on at really weird times since they're in Korea. So I usually just find out about that like stuff like secondhand, and the fact that there isn't a lot of events really going on in the Korean scene, specifically events that we're participating in, also makes it really difficult to report on it because it's
Oh
just
yeah, for sure.
so yeah, it's just so sporadic that it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the younger esports really have a hard time one advertising their events, two getting them on a consistent stream where it's like the same stream every time, and three like they have a hard time archiving them afterwards. So is that happening in PUBG? I feel like that's something that is.
Yeah, it could. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't paid attention to PUBG too much, just because like most of the time it's like, okay, whenever they're on, I'm doing something else, and it's like, well, I could watch the PUBG stuff, but I'm not really at a place that I can. But I just kind of just find it out after the fact. But yeah, PUBG I think definitely needs. I think part of the problem is there's a lot of little like online leagues, at least for like the North American scene and like Europe. There's a lot of online leagues that you can join and be a part of, and I think that like makes it really difficult to follow since there's like, oh yeah, for Tuesday they're playing in this thing, and then like Wednesday or like Thursday they're on a completely different thing. So it just gets kind of confusing.
Yeah, and I guess esports have to start somewhere, but it is inconvenient to watch, and unless you're in love with it.
Yeah, but that was just a short little thing. But moving on to I guess our first bit of bad news, CSGO, their troubles continue. At the WESG tournament in China, they crushed the second round of groups pretty easily. Things were looking good, right? You know, you're tearing up the group stage. Get to quarterfinals, they lose 1-2 to Team 1. And that basically means that they missed out on a huge prize money that should have really been theirs because the only serious competition that you really have is Fnatic. Like, I don't think they should be dropping games to like Team One. I don't think they should be dropping to like any of the teams at that tournament. Really, I think aside from Fnatic, because like Cloud9 and Fnatic were the only two I think like big, internationally renowned, like name brands at that tournament. Everyone else is kind of like isolated to their own region, I think. So to go to this big tournament, crush it in groups pretty much, and then lose to Team One, which is like a team
Yes.
you should probably beat. That's kind of not good.
Yeah, I think it's really been a symptom of this team since they won the major. I feel like it's more of a mental thing than anything else. Like, we've seen teams win championships in the past, and it really does take a special mindset to continue to compete. Like, it doesn't happen frequently. Like, the Patriots are one. Nick Saban is one. Like you don't see those hardcore dynasties all that frequently, and maybe they're caught up in the fact that they've already like achieved their highest achievement yet, but it just seems like they just have really high lapses of concentration a little bit too frequently.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like when you win an Oscar. Once you win an Oscar, you can basically just do whatever you want.
Yeah,
But
yeah, exactly.
yeah, I don't know, man. It's so weird because like they, like from what we've seen at the major, like they clearly have the skill to play at such a high level, but like their issues with consistency really bug them. So like they can play really well for a little bit and then just play like really poorly, and you never know like which Cloud9 you're really gonna get sometimes, and that really bothers me. And I mean, Tarek even has mentioned like, I think after they lost at WESG, he mentioned like, yeah, the team has some issues that we really need to work on. And it's good that he's like acknowledging that, but I think at the same time, I guess it's always a matter of time. Like, how long are you willing to tolerate issues from a team before like major changes are needed? And I guess that's something
Yeah.
that we, I don't want to ask
Yeah.
that, but I think it's something that we kind of have to start maybe beginning to ask if this is going to continue for a while.
I mean, I don't think it's out of the question at this point. It would be tough to make any kind of change this close to such a major victory, because an American team winning a major is a really big fucking deal. So like, that is like the pinnacle of CSGO, and it was one of the best esports matches I've ever watched in anything ever. Like, anybody would agree that this was incredible. But so like, we know that this team is capable of like being number one, but I think it's more of a mental approach at this point. And like I said, it takes a special kind of mindset to win back to back to back to back to back, and be winning all the time. So I don't know, like, I think it is a little too early though to call for changes, but I don't think that it's out of the question.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to address that for now. I don't know who they would, if they do go into like roster change territory, I'm not sure who they would pick up. I'm not super familiar with other players outside of Cloud9 and in CSGO, but I'm sure that with like the recent major win, I'm sure that it could attract like some pretty high profile names. So who knows? I mean, we'll continue to report on CS:GO even if they're like completely sucking it up. But I will continue to pull for this team. I want them to do well. They deserve it.
They do. They won as a major.
Yeah, they won us a major. At that point, you kind of have to get by them.
That's more than in any other team has done. So
Yeah, exactly. That's like more than any other Cloud9 team at this point.
yeah,
Oh, except
exactly.
for maybe don't forget
Vainglory,
Heroes of the Storm.
rip.
Heroes of the Storm won an
Just
World's Championship, and Vainglory
all right.
won
I
back-to-back
forgot
North
about that.
American Championships.
All right, I think this is still a little bit bigger, but maybe the Heroes of the Storm championship is the best one.
Never forget. I want them to make a shirt that's like a memorial Heroes of the Storm World Championship shirt. Jack, if you're listening to this, I have a lot of merch ideas. Some of them are out there, but I think they're really cool.
Or some kind of Dota shirt of like
Yes.
all of like the 8 different teams we picked up for their majors like 2 years in a row.
Or something about how Cloud9, what is dead may never die, or something. I don't know. What is Dota may never. Never mind. Anyway, we're moving on. We're getting
There's
off
something
topic.
there.
We're moving on to Rocket League, and the team has returned from a bit of a long break. There wasn't anything Rocket League related going on for a little while, actually. But they have returned to compete in the RLCS. I think this is Season 5. And they played against Ghost Gaming. They had to knock the rust off a little bit. They did look a little rusty at some parts, but it was actually a pretty good match. I think Ghost Gaming actually played really well. But the team ultimately won 3-1, which is a pretty good win, especially against a team that looked super competitive. So, did you watch the game? It was really good.
No, I've been really caught up in basketball the past
Oh,
week, and
you missed some high quality car soccer.
I definitely did not miss some. Or wait, no, I missed high quality basketball when I was watching my team, but I did not miss high quality basketball when I was watching the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So I did miss
Fighting
the car
doggos.
soccer though.
Yeah, but like I said, it was a good match. There's not too much to say on it. I think I will say the team does maybe look a little rusty. I think they'll get back into the swing of things as the season goes on. Hopefully,
It's the
maybe they
same
can also.
roster still, right?
Yes, it's the same roster, which is good. I think maybe they could use some work on some stuff because there was a lot of points in that game where it was like an open goal. They basically had a free shot, and they just kept missing it by a little bit, like bouncing off like the sidebar or the crossbar or whatever.
I
And
mean, they're
it
still
was just kind of like
pretty
frustrating.
young though, aren't they?
Yes, this is also true.
So we'll see.
But they'll get no sympathy from me.
It's really in the air. That's true. Slap them up.
But yeah, I think that's all for Rocket League. Let's jump on into Overwatch for a little bit. The team did pretty well. The London Spitfire went 2-0 last week. They had kind of a shaky game against San Francisco Shock, but that was because Birdring was resting up for the big match against Seoul Dynasty, and they put Hureg in. And Hureg isn't as good as Birdring, obviously. So they kind of struggled, but they beat them 3-1. But the Seoul match was great. London was just crushing them, and it actually increases Jisoo Busan's win rate, which is a majority of the London Spitfire roster back before Overwatch League. It increases their win rate over Seoul Dynasty 14-0. Now, that's a pretty sick win rate.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
For some reason, we can't lose to Seoul, despite them being one of the better teams on paper. Because we stopped them last time we played them too. So I think it's a successful week. It puts us into playoff position for the second stage. So I'm excited to see them defend their title this weekend. They played 2 matches this week. It's Friday, Saturday, then the playoffs on Sunday.
Yes. And they play against Shanghai Dragons and the Dallas Fuel, which are both like in a complete death spiral right now.
Yeah,
So
Shanghai's a free win.
Dallas is a free win too. I mean, even though they have like Rascal, you have Taimu, who's a DPS player. You've had to switch him over to main tank. The coaching staff has no idea, it seems, how to utilize their roster well, because like they'll sit Rascal out sometimes and then put AKM on Genji, and it's like, why would you do that? Rascal is a Genji player. Just put in Rascal, and their supports are struggling. Like everyone's just struggling basically. So
Yeah.
they should be free wins. But
Hopefully.
you know what?
That's
Yeah,
the goal. We'll see what
hopefully.
happens this week.
Yeah, but you know what isn't a free win, Frozen, and that's Cloud9 League of Legends, because
It's
our Cloudy boys.
depending on the week, it's free for someone, and
Yes,
lately it's not been us.
our Cloud boys turned into disappointment boys during the week because they had a really poor performance, Frozen.
I mean, is that an understatement or is that right on the dot?
I mean, they look. I think at some points it looked like they just completely forgot how to play League. They looked really bad, and it wasn't like, oh, they're just making these mistakes. It's like, no, they are.
Yes.
Like they'll get these leads, Frozen, and then once they'll be up like 2 kills and they'll have maybe like a tower or two. They'll be in a cushy spot and they'll just go, okay, we won the game, and then just not do anything for 15 minutes, and then the other team gets back in it just because you're not really doing anything, and then we can't do anything because Licorice. I don't know why we keep putting him on Shen, even though he just has the worst timing with his globals.
Yeah, that is one thing that doesn't seem to be working. I think that's probably a youth thing, or maybe it's not something they practice on, is executing their teleports and stuff, because he was also beat by Impact a couple times, just on teleports. So I think that must be a practice thing. It must be a communication thing. I'm not 100% sure that it's on him, but it very well could be. It could be like, hey, a Licorice teleport now, and he's like, hold on, I'm gonna kill this CS, and then he's too late. But I mean, I don't think it was all on him. It's definitely a team-wide problem, and I would say that it does tend to go towards the top of the map in failures. I'm gonna pick out a quick statistic for the team, and I think it's no more true now than it ever was. Oh, wait, no, I think it's more true now than it ever was. I closed it. Shit.
I closed it.
I meant to click over to the tab.
Well, while you're looking up the stat again.
Yes.
So
our early game rating is the highest in the league, but we actually have a negative mid to late game rating. So the early game rating is kind of like a definition of basically what the win percentage is based on what the game state is at, I believe, 20 minutes. So like if you've killed towers, if you have gold leads and stuff, like it makes your early game rating higher. But our late game, our mid to late game rating is negative, which isn't bad relative to the league. It's about average. But like I think that pretty much tells the whole story of what these last couple of weeks have been like, because we lost 4 straight matches between the last 2 weeks, or was it 3, or was it 4 out of 6 that we lost?
We lost to TSM 2 weeks, like
yes. Yeah,
in week 8 we lost to TSM, and then we lost
straight then.
Team Liquid, FlyQuest, Team Liquid. So like 4 in a row.
Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing that I've basically heard as an explanation for our horrific second half of the split has been that they're experimenting with things. Um, to
Yeah,
me,
I've heard that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, to me that seems kind of almost like a bullshit answer to just kind of like deflect the blame of how they've actually been performing. I mean, I've been trying to come up with a different answer to this. Like, I want to believe that it's just like they've been trying shit out, but like they're not doing anything like irregular. Like, they're barely drafting weird comps. Like, they drafted Karma once, they drafted Galio once, but Galio on
The Karma
8.5
and Galio actually
is not.
worked, which is the thing. Because Jensen can
Yeah,
actually impact the game much earlier than when you're putting him on like Cassiopeia or Azir, and he can't do anything until he gets like 3 items at like 35 minutes or something.
yeah, or yeah, and like Galio on 8.5 is like not even like this like super duper power pick. So like they would have been one of the few teams that week to pick it. So I think it's ridiculous to blame it on quote unquote experimentation just because they weren't really experimenting. Like, is Jensen playing Azir experimentation? Is Sneaky playing Varus or Zaya experimentation? Like, the fuck is that shit? Like, to me, that says more like we're trying to find an excuse to why we're doing bad than actually like realizing the fact that we're doing bad. And like, to me, that says like they don't get that something's wrong and that they're just going to get rolled over in playoffs unless they fucking fix their shit up.
I agree with you that the experimentation excuse is dumb. I think that it's not that they don't know what's wrong. I think they know exactly what's wrong, but so far no solution that they have come up with works. Because I don't think it's really experimentation, and it's more that they have tried to adapt to a new meta that is vastly different than what they were used to, and so like, okay, so before 8.4, what happened? They had a great dynamic that worked really, really well. You had Licorice on these carry impactful champions. You had Svenskeren and Smoothie doing and coordinating like all of the engage, right? And then you would just follow up with like Licorice, Jensen, Sneaky, like a triple, just boom, boom, boom. And it worked great. No one could stop us because we were impactful in all stages of the game. We were helping Licorice kind of get ahead a little bit early. You know, everyone was being impactful when they needed to be. It was great. 8.4 rolls around, what happens? Tanks are super big now. Baron is important, so it doesn't really matter how well the early game really goes. If you can survive that, it's basically anyone's game until someone gets Baron. And, you know, the AP items are all messed up, so everyone's trying to scramble to see what's good, and most of them have been playing champions that can kind of scale and just kind of sit there and do nothing. So 8.4 onward, you have Licorice on tanks, who has shown that he cannot be the one to pull the trigger because he just never wants to. You have Svenskeren sometimes playing Kha'Zix and sometimes not, but like, since there's just such a lack of anything to do or something, I don't know, he's just not doing anything after he gets a couple kills in the lead, because again, no one wants to really pull the trigger. Jensen's on super high scaling champions, so he doesn't want to do anything because he doesn't want to mess up his item timings. And then you have Sneaky just trying to help the team whenever you can, and then you have Smoothie, who I think has to feel like he has to overcommit because no one else really wants to try to pull the trigger. So everyone is playing scared. No one knows how to like play around each other right, and they just have not found a solution that works.
Yeah, I think I can see that. Another hypothesis I just came up with was maybe they just haven't found a way to play around the vision changes yet. Because the removal of Tracker's Knife seems kind of like a bigger deal to me. I'm trying to find some data on it.
I mean, it could be. I
But
never saw that change as like super duper impactful. I mean, like it could affect some, but I never saw it as something where it's just like, oh yeah, that could like cripple this jungler because they're like play super heavy around vision. But I
well,
mean,
like
considering how they've been playing recently, it could be.
there's just one play like um sticking out to me specifically. Sneaky was on Zaya, and Smoothie was on Rakan, and the opposing jungler was on Skarner, and for just some fucking reason out of the blue, Smoothie flash W'd onto the opposing players, but there was a Skarner coming like right out of tri brush, so like to I, I feel like maybe they just didn't know what to expect, or they're just blindly throwing out chances, because it seemed like a really dumb thing for me to do, seeing it from third person. But then you stop it, and then you look, and there's no wards down in that bottom quadrant of the jungle. I believe it was the blue side quadrant, and Cloud9 was on red side. And it just looked like the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Just him flash ult, or I don't think he ulted, but flashed into a knockup with a Skarner right there, making it a 3v2. And then I think that was when Licorice was on Shen, one of the Shen games. So, trying to figure out which game exactly it was. I think it was against Team Liquid, and Impact made a better TP play, and they ended up demolishing us in that fight. So I don't know, like just shit like that is just tough to watch when, even when we're trying. It's like blind ideas. Like it's not an educated estimation to us winning the fight in battle.
Yeah, and I think that my theory about their compositions and everything, I think kind of holds up when you look at how they beat Clutch Gaming in that last tiebreaker that they played versus their other matches that they played that they lost at. So like, and their losses, they were all trying to do like Licorice on initiating tanks, Jensen doing all this scaling mage crap. But then you look at the Clutch Gaming comp, and it's Licorice is on Camille, Svenskeren is on a tanky initiator in Zac, Jensen's playing Galio, a mid laner that can be impactful and do damage, but also be supportive, and then we have Xayah Rakan for bot lane. That's something that we looked like really well with before the meta change, and that's what was making us be successful. And so it kind of goes back to like, oh well, this is something that worked before, and they looked really good on it.
Oh yeah, I do agree. I don't know. I just feel like they seem somewhat lost in how to play the game. Like it almost seems like
No,
a
yeah,
lost
I
to
completely
focus.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
like they looked really
just,
lost.
yeah, and if you were watching them on a Sunday, like they once they lost that second game against Team Liquid in the tiebreaker, they just looked tilted off the face of the earth, which I don't blame them. They were fighting for first place just a week or two ago, and after that loss, they were fighting for fifth place. So it was probably one of the biggest breakdowns I've ever seen in League of Legends. Like this was like a monumental breakdown. Like
Yeah, it was.
they
It
easily
was bad.
could have been first place at the split. They could have won the split and had a playoff bye. If they would have won, what, 2 more games?
I
Some
think
stupid
so.
shit like that. Yeah, so... But let's not be totally negative, I guess. We have playoffs this weekend. We are playing Team Liquid on Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we've ragged on them enough. So what do you think Reaper and the team has to do to flip this around and win?
Well, they're gonna have to do a lot because they have from basically Monday morning till Saturday afternoon to fix a lot of their issues. And I'm not sure if a band-aid is going to be able to help when you have a giant hole in your boat. But I think their best way to help their play is to just stick with what works, stick with what you feel comfortable with. Stop putting Licorice on Shen. He looks bad with it. You know, the team is obviously suffering when you are having your rookie top laner be the trigger for your plays. Let Sven and Smoothie be the trigger. You know, just let him, give him something that he's comfortable on that isn't like a make or break champion. You know, he looked good on Cho'Gath when he played Cho'Gath. Just put him on Cho'Gath. You know, just let him farm and be a tanky boy. Put Jensen on something that he can carry from, and he can feel strong, and just keep Sneaky alive for God's sakes. It's like it's like those cartoons, you know, when you're like walking through a construction site and like everything is like being swung at him. It's like he's kind of like that in a way, except he actually gets hit by the girder every now and then. You know, so I think just keep Sneaky alive, keep Jensen alive, and give him something that he can carry with and be impactful in all stages of the game, not just the late game, and just keep Licorice away from anything that's super important, I guess, to the game plan. I guess that's the only thing that that I can think of.
Yeah, I think a lot of those are good calls. Regarding Licorice, it's really tough right now to find him a good matchup, just because we can't band-aid over his inability to play all three stages of the game at a high enough level, or with just a draft. Like, we can't draft him Jace into whomever. So
yeah, you can't really fix an experience.
Yeah, exactly. And we apparently can't make Svenskeren and not face check brushes in the enemy jungle when he has no reason to be there. So I think for me, one of the big things is our vision control. The one thing I kind of saw time and time again was Sneaky getting caught out a little too high up a lane, and it happened a lot in mid lane near where I'm thinking of red side because I know it happened here, where the jungle opens up on the red buff side by the Raptors. Yeah, I think we got caught a couple times walking over a ward there, showing that Sneaky was overextended and all by himself, and it ended up in him getting caught a couple times. Specifically, I think through a Rise ult and a Tahm Kench ult, and a lot of these mistakes are preventable, but it's not totally on him to make sure that
those are mistakes that they have made time and time again, though. Like, how many times have we just like been screwed over or like had to reset and take a hit because the team was, I don't want to use the word incompetent, but at the end of the day, you're kind of incompetent for not compensating for the fact that Tahm Kench ult exists, right? Like, you should know
and like
keep a timer on that key ability, but everyone just forgets, like, oh, Tahm Kench ult. It's just like, I know that.
Like I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a straggling ward just kind of laying around to show that pick potential's there. Like the fact that the Tahm Kench ult is up isn't as big of a deal if we keep control of the vision, so they can't I actually see that he might be a little straggling, but maybe it does come down to the fact that his sneaky is overextending just a little bit too, and not giving the opposing team enough is showing that what's the word, showing them enough
No, I mean I understand what you're saying,
yeah fuck
but I just take such like it's kind of a thing with me because I remember like last season that happened so much. I think I feel that, so it's like to see it continue to happen. It's just like, you guys, can you just like be a little bit more cautious with these big global abilities? I know, like, I mean, I get it, like, tracking something like that's really difficult, and trying to compensate for that's really difficult. I probably wouldn't be able to do it, but I would like to see at least some progress being made on that front, where, like, they do take globals into more account when they try to set up a play, because sometimes I feel like they just completely forget that they exist, and then they're like super surprised when, like, how'd they get behind us? And it's just like, oh, they have a Tom Kench or they have a Rise or something. It's just like you didn't pre-plan even a little bit.
The only time I've been really surprised about that was at Worlds. Oh man, I think it was season 6. It must have been when we were playing. Now it's KSV, but what were they? Samsung. And they snuck a ward out by the Baron pit, and teleported behind us and completely smashed us with a cannon. That way, that was like the only time.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, I remember seeing. I think it was like a Janna placing the ward. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then next thing I know, we got the shit kicked out of us from a sick cannon teleport. So that was one of the few times I've ever been extremely surprised by global play. But yeah, I agree with you. It's not just those globals, but it's also they have to fix their back times around Baron too. Like, that's
they've been so bad with that.
This week it was
I don't know
not
how
as
many
bad.
times. I don't know how many times I've seen Sneaky and Smoothie both back when Baron is up and the enemy team is just kind of hanging around there, like kind of just like staring at you. And it's just like, oh, I better back. And then it's just like, and I'm like screaming, no, don't back. What are you doing? And they're just like near Baron threatening to take it.
Yeah, this week was better, so I'll give them that. What would you say is the ideal comp for us to win this week?
Safety in the bot lane, something in the mid lane that can allow Jensen to be relevant on all stages of the game, and not having to like cripple him. Give Sven something tanky. Sven does really well with things that are one, tanky, and two, can be an initiator. His Skarner kind of looks kind of off and on. I don't like that he does the Predator build, because with how we've been playing, where we'll get an advantage but then do nothing with it, you kind of can't just run into people with like the kind of squishy Skarner build. He's going oh, I forgot the item that makes you go fast.
Yeah, the Predator.
No, the other one. It looks like a helmet.
Oh, a Righteous Glory.
Yeah, Righteous Glory. That's it. Like he'll put Righteous Glory, but it doesn't have enough stats to really make him super tanky. So like, he'll be running around and just like, I'm gonna try to get him, and then he'll just get melted. When like, if he went with like a much more like tankier rune setup and a much more tankier build, he could just like laugh at everyone as he's just like running into like sting like a backline or something. So like, put him on something tanky, but something that can also initiate the play and not backfire if we get behind. And put Licorice on just like a bruiser. Like, give him Kled or Camille, or something that can have some offensive capability without completely giving away something big to the enemy. If you have to give him a tank, give him Cho'Gath. Because anything that requires a lot of intense macro play, I think we'll just really struggle with.
Yeah, for me, the one thing I really want to see is Svenskeren on Sejuani. And if it was up to me, I'd put him on Sejuani every fucking game.
He looks so much better on
Because,
Sejuani than like any of the other junglers he's played.
yeah, because of all the other ones, that's the most fucking brain dead one. So you can't like sit there and counter jungle the whole game, and if you get caught out, you just don't die. So
Yeah.
I just want to see him on Sejuani. Licorice wise, I think if we're gonna put him on a tank, Cho'Gath is the best choice, just because he pushes lane pretty well. I mean, I'd honestly be okay with him picking up Darius for that Cho'Gath matchup if he's willing to throw down the gauntlet. So I don't know, like we have a tough matchup this weekend. Like we did avoid TSM until finals, but like it's not an ideal a position for us to be in. Like we're playing Team Liquid, who's beat us twice in the past 2 weeks. So
Yeah. Well, just twice in that one day, actually.
oh yeah, twice in one day. So one last question, then we'll do predictions. Would you rather make it to the knockout stages of Worlds or win a split in North America?
At this point, I would trade performing somewhat well internationally with having TSM's, I guess, local dominance. Because at this point, I mean, realistically, how far is a North American team really going to get at Worlds, right? I think that Korean competition is way too strong.
Semis
And
if
North
they have a
America,
good draw.
North America, just as a region, I don't think has really displayed a lot of strength and confidence to go super far internationally. Like Cloud9 has made it to quarters the past couple of times. That's about it. I think at this point, trade international success for domestic success, because if you can dominate like TSM has dominated for a while, I think that's just as much clout as being adequate to maybe a bit mediocre domestically and doing better internationally, because internationally only happens once a year. Domestic happens like the rest of the time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really want to see this team win a split. Like for me, I think that would be the most exciting thing that could happen outside of making it to a World's Finals. So I think that's why a lot of us have been disappointed, is because we haven't won a split since season 5 or season 4.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a long fucking time. So I think that's why a lot of us have been disappointed with this team.
I think it's also because they've been close like a few times, and they just have not been able to clutch it out and finish that one team fight, or do this one play well and actually win. They've just kind of been really close and then fall down right before the finish line.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I think diving too far into this discussion is going to bring us into a post-split conversation. So I'll leave it at that. We're starting to run out of time, and it's probably almost time for a bathroom break. So
it's late. We're sad. Let's.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. 2 more things. First one. Have you been following the Riot Tuesday matches of the week thing?
Not really.
Okay, so I think it's just on Tuesdays. They play the 5 best matches of the week, one from each major region: China, Korea, NA, EU. Maybe it's just 4. I'm not sure. But they just play them back to back, just quickly. There's like a 2-minute break between each one. I think it's been a lot of fun. Like I don't watch all of it. I'll watch maybe a match, but like I think it's cool to see the other regions. I don't get to watch EU anymore just because I'm on my job, but I do watch China on Fridays. I normally watch a match. Same with Korea, but it's pretty cool to see them making more content accessible to everyone, and it's easy. So I'm glad that they're taking the easy route and just doing some fun things. So past that, predictions for this weekend.
Oh
We
man, I don't even
have
know.
Team Liquid. All right, so I want the predictions for our match against Team Liquid. The 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game on Saturday, and I want the prediction for the Sunday matchup at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, TSM versus Clutch Gaming.
Um, uh, jeez. So I want to say that Cloud9 beats Team Liquid, but just considering their recent performance and how much they've been struggling lately, I may just have to give it to Team Liquid. Um, I want to go for Cloud9, but so far they have just really struggled and played really poorly recently. Until they prove me wrong, I'm gonna have to go with Team Liquid. 3-1 or 3-2. I think that Team Liquid may slip up here and there, but if Cloud9 hasn't fixed their issues, and if they haven't learned how to actually take a lead and grow it, they're just gonna run into the same problems that they have been running for the past few weeks, and Team Liquid's gonna just beat them. As for TSM versus Clutch, I think TSM will beat Clutch Gaming. Clutch Gaming has some pretty good players, but I think TSM has definitely found their consistency, and Bjergsen in playoffs is always scary. So those are mine.
Yeah. I could see the C9 Team Liquid matchup going either way. I could see a world where we 3-0 them even like, but I don't really see a world where they 3-0 us.
Yeah, it's really hard because like we can definitely use the time that we have off to like figure out what like works and what doesn't, and actually like figure out a game plan and really prepare for Liquid to make sure that we beat them. But on the other hand, scrims are very different than the actual game. And like I even think like Smoothie after the win against Clutch Gaming in that tiebreaker, he's like, yeah, we saw a lot of picks that we just didn't see in scrims, and that really surprised us and that really messed us up. So
Yeah,
it
so
could be something like that.
yeah, and since the patch is the same, I think they kind of should hopefully understand how to play on it. I don't think the match against Clutch Gaming is any indication to how they're going to play in playoffs. So I'm going to give Cloud9 a 3-2 win. Regarding TSM and Clutch Gaming, I find it hard giving Clutch Gaming a win. They've been a consistent team that pretty much is just beating up on the teams below them in the standings. And like, if this were a longer season, like if this were to include summer split also, I could find a really good situation for them to finish even like second or third in the standings just because they consistently beat the teams below them. But I think TSM has kind of came around and they're not below them. So I would give TSM a good 4-1.
Yeah, I have to agree as well. But
I think that's about it for this week then.
yeah, that's about it. So thank you for listening to Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. Feel free to tweet questions and feedback to us at C9Bodied or email us at bodiedfancast@gmail.com. We'll try to get back to you whenever we can. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Peace out.